And so growing up, the heroes for me in that civil rights movement were the architects, of course, of that great movement, and they were the lawyers. So it was Thurgood Marshall and Charles Hamilton Houston and Constance Baker Motley, who were taking the great skill of this profession and translating the passion in the streets to the courtrooms of our country, and reminding those who unfortunately needed to be reminded of that great promise we articulated in 1776, which is, of course, that we are all and should be treated as equals. So I decided at a very young age I wanted to go to law school. I went to Howard University for college, and then I came back home and I attended Hastings College of the Law in San Francisco. And then I made the decision about what I wanted to do with my law career in my pursuit of justice. And so I was very excited, and I called my family and I said, I've decided, and everybody gathered around, okay, Kamala, what have you decided you're going to do? And I said, I have decided I'm going to be a prosecutor. Now, you have an image of who my people are, right? So at best, this was a curious decision, and in many ways I did have to defend it like one would a thesis. But what I said then is what I absolutely maintain today after a career as a prosecutor, which is that law enforcement and the criminal justice system has such a direct and profound impact on the most vulnerable among us, and has as its responsibility and duty to give a voice to the voiceless in a way that not only provides them with an environment where they will be safe, but also allows them dignity in the process. So for all of those reasons, I decided I wanted to be a prosecutor, and straight out of law school, I went to what was then considered to be one of the best DA's offices in the country, and that is the Alameda County DA's office. Now, the Alameda County DA's office got that reputation in large part because years before, its elected DA was Earl Warren, who of course went on to be the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court and the author of Brown versus Board of Education, which of course desegregated the schools of our country. And as an aside, I'll share with you, I am part of the second class to integrate Berkeley Public Schools. So the symmetry of that has always been something I've enjoyed. And so then my career started. And it was the work for many, many years of standing before juries and talking with those juries about why justice demands serious and swift consequences and accountability when one human being kills another human being, or when a woman is raped, or a child is molested. And it was the work of standing before those juries and saying that if we are to be a civil and just community, we must make sure that there will be accountability when one human being harms another human being. And that's the work I did, and there are frankly a lot of folks who are spending a lot of time in state prison because of that work. I then left that office and I went to my office under my predecessor. I was there for a couple of years, didn't think it was being run so well. So the city attorney of San Francisco at the time, Louise Rennie, asked me to come and head up the Children and Families Division of the city attorney's office, and I did that work for 2 years, focused on policy issues affecting children and families in San Francisco. And then I was encouraged to run for DA of San Francisco and challenge the incumbent. Now, for those of you who may know or remember, the DA at the time in San Francisco was in his second term, comes from an old political family in San Francisco, and his nickname is KO, because he's a boxer. And nonetheless, we decided, yes, this is the right thing, we could do the job better, and so I decided to run and challenge him. There was a third fellow in the race who had been in the office for years before. And I was very excited, and on the politics of the campaign, I'll share with you, I was in my little campaign headquarters, very excited to see the first polling results that were being handed to me. And so this piece of paper was handed to me, and I looked, and there we started out at a very healthy 6 points in the polls. Now, that means 6 in 100, of course. But we were not deterred. And in fact, what we did with that campaign is what I remember my parents doing not so long before, which is we put together a coalition a coalition of people who seemingly have nothing in common, but who have everything in common. When we talk about basic fundamental beliefs around what kind of society we want, when we care about the children we are raising and want them to live in a safe community, when we think of our senior relatives and friends and know that we want them to be free from predatory practices, when we think about what we would like when a juvenile gets involved in the juvenile justice system, which is to figure out a way to transition them out of the system before they become the career criminal. So this is the conversation we had in that campaign, and it was captured in a slogan that basically went like this: let's put aside that old tired conversation that simply asks of the criminal justice system, so, you're soft on crime or you're tough on crime? And instead, let's ask, are we smart on crime? And through the process of talking with the voters in that campaign, we won, and I became the elected district attorney of San Francisco in January of 2004. And that's when the work started. And, you know, for many of us, we know as professionals and leaders, you know, we could close our eyes and we have figured out exactly how the world should be and how it can be fixed. And we have very grand and good big ideas about how to go about making it happen. But the reality is that in order to achieve those great gestures, we also must first focus on what some might consider to be the mundane, which in the case of my office as I walked into it meant, and now this is going to upset all of you Silicon Valley leaders, it meant dealing with and addressing the fact that in San Francisco in 2004, 2/3 of my lawyers didn't have email. It's true. It's true. It meant addressing the fact that we needed to grow that budget from $30 to $40 million so we could resource the office in a way that could get the job done. It meant bringing in training programs and recruiting the best and the brightest. It meant addressing the fact that we needed to have a gun policy. So I created one, and I wrote in the first line, in case there was any ambiguity about why, guns kill. So we will take those crimes seriously. And it is the result of that work in those early days and years that was about building up this government office to be a professional law office that we were able to raise the conviction rates to the highest they've been in San Francisco in almost 15 years. We doubled the number of serious and violent felons that were sent to state prison. We increased the conviction rate for gun crime from 43% to over 90%. Because that was the essential work that needed to be done. But remember, if we are going to truly be smart on crime, it will only be because we get beyond simply reacting to crime, and we think about also what we can do to prevent crime from happening before it occurs.